Hello, today for review I've got iBasso's recent addition to the in-ear monitors lineup. Company already well known for a wide range of in-ear monitors, starting from expensive like IT07 and ending with affordable models like IT00. And now they decided to update their models that goes after the most affordable. It's IT01X. Their target price is $120. In some places they are sold for a bit more depending on taxes and customs, but in general price is 120. It's a single dynamic driver in-ear monitors with heavily tuned and customized driver. It's a 10mm double beryllium plated diaphragm driver with specially tuned brass acoustic cavity, Helmholtz resonator and lot of other stuff implemented here. And it's pretty surprising that price is relatively low, especially taking into account good presentation and great accessories set. So let's have a closer look. As you can see, package is nice, it looks bright, and for the affordable model iBasso decided to make vivid colors and stylish design. On the back side there are technical specifications in different languages. The most interesting is 108 decibels of sensitivity and 16 ohms of impedance. So as you can see, they are pretty sensitive. Weight is low, total harmonic distortions are low too. Removing this sleeve, and internal box has nice bright yellow color. Here are earpieces themselves. Let me put them aside for a while and we'll get this storage plug and organizer. Also, as usual for iBasso, on the top side there is a warranty card and manual. Inside we'll get accessories, pretty wide and generous set. iBasso even put spare filters into the set of accessories, stock cable, and 5 different type of silicone tips, black, gray one, so I won't unpack them right now. We'll spend more time. You'll get 2 pair of foams and 3 pair of different other tips. So really generous, especially comparing with, let's say, KZ model that I reviewed recently with similar price and just 3 pair of tips in the accessory set. Earpieces themselves are really small. They are made of plastic, but here used that metal paint that is used in automobile painting, so they have a fancy glossy look, really pretty shiny, and interesting face plates with reflecting effect, so they look pretty expensive. There are different colors and there are different color combinations, so everyone can find something that will suit their taste. On the faceplate written in tune, its model name. They have pretty wide metal spouts going inside of ears to above average length, providing about average sound isolation. There is a lip for holding the tips, and you can unscrew these top filters, and this is done for easy maintenance. You can clean them easily. Maybe in some future iBasso will release tuning filters, or they will sell that filters that are available with IT07 separately. They fit to this model. Spouts are made of metal, protective grill is present here. In general, build quality is great, wearing comfort is nice, and sound isolation is average, but it will be enough for public street or for noisy street, for public transport, but of course not for the subway or for the plane travel. Stock cable is another expensive accessory that overcomes the price. It uses MMCX connectors that clicks in place, and they seem to be pretty reliable, so no issues with them. They're holding pretty well, and stock cable looks fancy and feels fancy. It's about average in terms of softness. It's not super soft, but it's probably because of good quality wires used here. It has slight microphonic effect, but thanks to these ear hooks, they help to minimize it. It's not getting hard when it's cold outside, and is tangle proof. And after here is small splitter, and after splitter it goes down to the regular 3.5mm jack, so splitter, chin slider, and jack made of metal. So as you can see, accessories, set, presentation, design, and all that exterior things are done really well for this price range. And of course, about the sound, I gave them about 48 hours of burn-in, and there were some slight changes during first couple of hours. So if you get them, I don't think there is much sense in burning them in as a separate process. While you will be experimenting with tips, they will burn in during that process. And you'll need to experiment with the tips to get the proper seal, because for single dynamic driver models it's important, and with different tips you'll obviously get a bit different results in terms of tuning. I like them with these white silicone tips, and usually, with other models this super soft white silicone gives bad results, but with this one, probably because of small size and nice fit, this tips isolates pretty good. As for player for providing the examples, it's pretty obvious. I have nice blue iBasso earphones, and absolutely obvious that I will use excellent blue iBasso players that give me so much joy during last months. So, in terms of sound, it's an interesting example when tuning doesn't totally correspond to frequency response, because on the frequency response plot they are almost flat. But in practice they are a bit V-shaped with slightly recessed mids and delivering a pretty fun signature. Let's analyze that step by step. So bass is accented, accent isn't huge, so it's not a bass head model, but it's definitely a model for those who like moderately boosted low frequencies, and for those who like accent on the depths of bass, because dynamic driver here is really technical and it goes to a really good depth. It's balancing between fast dry bass and meaty and weighty one, so it delivers a good weight, but at the same time nice resolution. It's not super dry and neither it's super weighty, so it's somewhere in between. When it's necessary it can deliver good punch, and when it's necessary it can give sound, give tune a nice well presented body. It's good in rendering textures, and it's good in saturating tune with that rich overtones. It's highlighting them a little bit, so with low frequency instruments they are getting a bit of that hyper-realistic treatment, sounding not 100% natural, but really exciting. And it's good with electronic music, at least at my scale, because it delivers good amount of deep bass and nice rumble and so on. Bass is controlled really well, and almost all the time it stays in place. And as an example, I decided to get John McEuen, Excitable Boy from Rock Reimagined by Chesky. It's a good cover of classical tune with probably it's a country style with the instrument that I suspect being banjo, and overall that style is clearly audible, and they have some nice good acoustic bass here with nice juicy sound, but at the same time not over highlighted, and that these earphones delivers it nicely and plays with a good sense of realism. Mid frequencies are a bit recessed, but not too much. Probably here it's more proper to say they are not elevated comparing with bass. They have normal resolution, but of course it's not a balanced armatures and it's not a hybrid. It's a good resolving dynamic driver, but it's not focused on the micro detalization, it's not trying to deliver the smallest and tiniest nuances. And iBasso decided to do a bit unusual thing. They reduced the upper mids bump that vast majority of companies does. It improved the realism of mid frequencies, but at the same time these earphones require a bit of accommodation because at first you'll miss that boost, most probably, unless of course you are used to natural and linear earphones. At the same time, they are really good in terms of dynamics. They have a nice proper weight distribution. I really like that and I really appreciate that. They have a pretty big stage, noticeably above average. It's closer to biggest ones, but of course for this price tier, but still pretty impressive. It's not a super holographic 3D stage, but pretty wide and with good depth layering. Instruments have a great body as well as vocals. And they are moderately critical for the quality of records. It's better to get some properly recorded and mastered material, but at the same time they're not super nitpicking. And that said, here is my subjective track that I often start critical listening with. It's Iron Maiden, Ace is High. It's definitely not properly recorded. It's not the worst track in the history of metal in terms of record quality, but definitely it's not among the best ones too. And with this track I usually analyze the overall balance of earphones. Monitoring one sounding sharp here and some fun V-shaped sounding muddy here, and luckily IT01X sounding fairly balanced. I miss that upper mids bump a little bit, but after slight accommodation I used to sound of these earphones and they sounding good and natural, and this track sounds the way I used to. So mids are not monitoring, but at the same time not super colored, so somewhere in between. And treble has slightly above average extension, and what I really like here, gone are that spikes that IT00 has. It's still a bit forward treble, but it's not as forward and as aggressive as, let's say, IT01S for example, or IT00. Treble here is more calm, more natural, with a bit better control. Of course it's not balanced armatures in terms of resolution, but it's a nice resolving dynamic drivers. A bit slower attacks in the case, but at the same time nice weight distribution. Good overtone saturation and even some hints of basic layering is present here. So in terms of treble performance, it's a really nice dynamic driver that I like. And as an example for the treble, another track that I like, actually I like the whole album, it's Hans Zimmer Interstellar soundtrack. I really like this mix of classical music and ambient, and treble plays a vital role here because this soundtrack is built on different decays, saturations and ambient sounds, and all of them require good treble performance that this model delivers. Of course not perfectly, because to fully show the potential of this soundtrack and this player you'll need something like IT07, but for this price tier they perform pretty well. Speaking about the pairings, of course they targeted towards the players of entry level, but they scale well up to the middle level, and they are pretty good with iBasso owned apps like DX160, for example. They are good with some digital tonal converters. DC03 is a nice example, and especially I admit the pairing with iBasso CF01, that Bluetooth adapter, they giving a good pair together, definitely overperforming different true wireless models in terms of sound quality. Speaking about the comparisons, just a few models to name as a reference points. So let's start with iBasso own models. IT00. This model is more natural, more technical, with better and more natural treble. It's especially noticeable, and a bit tighter low frequencies. Difference isn't huge, but probably it's the case when price to quality ratio equal for both models, because you're getting improvement proportional to the price increase. And IT01S, it's more forward, more focused on the micro contrast, more aggressive on the treble, so it's a more audiophilic model, let's name it this way. I don't know, iBasso FIO FD01, for example, pretty popular single dynamic driver model. It's cheaper and it's more linear, more focused on the micro contrast, sounding brighter. I don't know, NF Audio NM2 Plus, another reference model for me in terms of single dynamic drivers. They are more linear and more focused on the micro contrast with less bass and less treble accent. Not much sense in comparing them with popular hybrid models like FIO FH3, for example, or BQ EYZ Spring 2 that I really like, because balanced armatures will be more focused on the micro contrast, for example. We can compare them by amount of lows or something like that, but overall representation is pretty different. For hybrids you'll get less coherent sound, because single dynamic driver, of course, it's more coherent, and it's a matter of preferences, because many people like dynamic drivers and they perform really well. And that's probably enough about the iBasso IT01X. They created a model that is targeted towards the audience who prefer fun sound, but at the same time it's not overcolored or super V-shaped. It's still pretty technical in ear monitors, delivering good value for their price. Thank you for listening, thank you for your attention, and of course, have a nice day.